Hi everyone, I wanted to show you a doll I was working on the other day. I haven't decided what to call this yet, so if you've got any ideas what I could call this doll, let me know. So first of all, I started off with this Rochelle Goyle doll that I've had in my spares box for ages, and her hair, no matter what I did to it, kept going sticky again, so obviously I knew her head must be full of glue. And for the look I wanted to create, I didn't need the pink hair anyway, so I decided to remove her hair. For this one, I wanted to remove as much as possible, avoid actually removing the top of the head to scrape out the glue and everything on the inside, so I did it this way instead. So I'm off camera a bit here, but what I'm doing is I'm just trimming off the lengths of the hair first of all. Basically using the scissors to get the hair as short as I possibly can. And then I'm scraping around on the inside of the head to remove the hair and the glue from the inside. This took a while because there's quite a lot of glue and sticky residue in the head. But as you can see, it started to come out in quite big sticky clumps. There was absolutely loads of it in her head. You'll see at the end, this took ages. And it was just disgusting. Like from the very first bit that I pulled out of her head, my tweezers, my hands and the entire doll head was sticky. So the glue in this one was awful. Apparently Mattel doesn't use this glue anymore. I hope not. But unfortunately, obviously, they used it when they did these Monster High dolls and stuff. So occasionally you get a really, really bad doll like this where there's quite a lot of the glue in. And it must have been like a fairly cheap glue. And what happens with it is if the temperature's warm or even at room temperature, the glue oozes and it sort of seeps out the head and turns the doll head sticky. You can use, soak the head with furniture polish and stuff to remove it from the hair on the outside, but after a while you'll find the hair will go sticky again and you have to repeat the treatment. Basically, it's like 1,000 Splendid Dolls says, if there's like a teaspoon of glue in the head, a teaspoon of glue is going to ooze out the head before it stops being sticky. So you do have to repeat the treatments a few times to remove the stickiness, or do what I'm doing here and remove the hair and all the glue from the inside of the head. For the dolls I've kept in my collection, I'll just do it where I'll treat their heads every so often, like about once every 6 months or once a year, and then I find that after I've done it a few times there's no more glue left to seep out, and I tend to find that the hair tends to be fine after that. So as you can see, what I'm doing here is using my tweezers to scrape around inside the head and remove the hair. The hardest part is always when you get to the parting, because it's like double rooted there and tends to be a bit harder to separate the hair out from the head. So I normally have to scrape a few times and pull and push a bit, and normally I'll get there in the end. And this took me, I think it took me about half an hour or so. It took me a fair bit, and then I got a baby wipe and used that to wipe the sticky residue off the outside of the head. And also, as you can see, I'm using nail polish remover to remove the residue of the paint on her head, the pink paint. And then using a baby wipe to wipe all that off and make sure I've removed all the sticky residue and the traces of nail polish left afterwards. Then, before I got rid of the mess, I popped the head back on the neck. I find it easier to work on the doll if the head's attached to the neck, because like especially if I'm using epoxy sculpt or anything, if you use epoxy sculpt on the head and then you're squeezing the head afterwards to put it back onto the neck peg, you can sometimes crack the epoxy sculpt off the vinyl, because obviously this head's squishing, the epoxy sculpt's not. In this one I haven't used any epoxy sculpt or anything, so it was fine, but it's just easier, I find, to stick the head back on first. Now I wanted to do like a skeleton design on this one, and I needed a dark paint because the lips that were bright pink, as you can see, that's actually staining from previous paint. So I decided to paint the whole thing black first of all. This is to make the skeleton design that I do afterwards really stand out. It also disguises the plug holes slightly. I am going to do something to cover up where the plug holes are. I'm probably going to put her in a hoodie or something, or some sort of cloak with a little hood. Because I'm not rerouting her, I wanted to leave her bald. Or I might just do a few layers of paint so that the holes are filled in with paint. I haven't decided yet. She's not 100% finished yet. So I can still do little tweaks like that. Now to get the paint fairly smooth, I've got this nice watercolour brush that's quite a wide one, and I've put plenty of water on my brush. And then added the acrylic paint. So the acrylic paint is fairly thin, but not watery, because otherwise it would just run off the doll. And then I'm just using long strokes, fairly smooth strokes, and going over the area a few times while the paint's still wet to really smooth it down and basically remove any lumps and bumps. So basically you put the paint down and then go over the area a little bit just to smooth the paint down. This is the first coat, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So if it's streaky, it's fine. This Rochelle doll's got 2 holes in her back from where she used to have wings, and I'm umming and ahhing about giving her a new set of wings. I'll give her like a new set of massive wings if I do put some on her. I haven't decided yet, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to see her with wings. And what I did first of all was paint as far down as I could while holding the doll, and then for some reason afterwards, that's when I decided to glue her joints to make her more like a statue, so she stays in the same pose. Ideally what I should have done is glued her joints first on her legs, because obviously the first lot of glue just took the paint off, and then the second lot of glue actually stuck the joint together. Because at first I wasn't going to glue her joints, and then I decided halfway through painting her body that actually, after all, yes, I will glue the joints, because I can keep her in the same pose that I want without having any problems. But oh well. It worked out in the end. I just had to put extra glue on in the end to get her leg joints to stay in place. Ideally, I should have got like a sort of gel type super glue. This one's very runny, so it was a bit hard to work with, and it takes ages to set, which is weird. So I first of all glued the hips in place where I wanted them, and then I had to hold the doll for about 5 minutes just to make sure she'd set, and then I glued the joints in her arms and positioned her arms how I wanted them, and then I did the elbow joints as well. The arms and elbow joints actually set really quickly. I found it was the leg joints that was the problem, but like I said, I accidentally painted the legs and everything first before deciding to glue the doll, which is why. Then once her glue had set, which was quite quick on the arms to be fair, I carried on painting the doll's body completely black. In the end with this doll, I think I did 3 layers of black paint on her body. So it was a nice solid black, like nice solid layer of paint, and it was nice even coat all over. And I had to use 3 thin coats so I could get the paint quite smooth on the body because I didn't want any, like, you know, loads of lumps and bumps and stuff. So I wanted to keep the paintwork quite smooth. I am going to have to crack out my airbrush and have a go with using my airbrush on the dolls at some point, but I haven't used it for dolls yet. Be interesting to see the difference between painting it in thin layers and airbrushing the paint on. So I will investigate that at some point. I had to put some more glue on the elbow joint there because I hadn't quite put enough on, and I actually popped the joint as I was going, and I also managed to get a bit of super glue on the very tip of my brush. That's why I cut the tips of the bristles off. Then once I left the paint to set, then it was time to put the skeleton detail on over the top. Basically, the idea behind this doll is to make it look like it's someone or a creature that's got this all-in-one black suit on with skeleton bones painted on. So it's like it's someone in a Halloween costume is the kind of idea behind it. And obviously the first layer of white paint is not going to look fantastic. It does take more than one coat. But I do kind of like how it looked at this stage. I kind of like how it looked a bit sort of murky and, I don't know, almost a bit smoky-like in colour when I applied the white. So I started off by going around the features of the face and creating the rough skull shape. Now, I'm not going for realistic bones here, by the way. I'm going for just like sort of a cartoony design. You know, like I said, the idea is it's like a Halloween costume or something. I haven't decided if it's a human in Halloween costume yet or some other creature. I'm not sure. I did leave the Rochelle ears on because I quite like the ears. And I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to make them look like their ears that someone's attached as part of their costume or whether that's the ears they actually have. I haven't decided. And what I did is I applied the first layer fairly thinly and then applied a second layer over the top to make the skull a bit brighter. In the end, I think it took 4 layers to get like a really bright look to the skull, because obviously painting over the black. But I wanted to do the base layer black first of all. A, because I wanted the colours toned down anyway, and B, it covers up any of those marks that were already on the doll that I couldn't get off. So it's just a case of adding a few more layers of paint and then working on the eyelid shape. I wanted her to look like she's kind of got her eyes half closed, like she's very unimpressed. That's the kind of expression I'm going for. And it does take me a bit, and I do tweak it a few times. You'll see later on I'll actually go back in with the black paint to actually fix where it's smudged. What happened was there was a blob of water on my brush, which I hadn't noticed, and it ran onto the face paint and actually created a big mess. So you'll see me fix that later on. Then once I had got the rough skull shape in place and was waiting for that second layer to dry, I started working on the bones on the body. I created 2 sort of rough vertebra shapes on the neck and then added a couple of lines for the collarbones and a line in the middle for the sort of sternum. Then I used a thinner brush and the white paint to create rough rib shapes. Like I said, I'm not going for anatomically correct. I'm not going for accurate, perfect looking bones. I wanted like a sort of stylized, sort of cartoony type style to the outfit. And what I did first of all was roughly mark out where the ribs were going to go and painted them in, and then went over them later on to refine the shapes a bit and just make them a little bit more stylized. So here I'm just basically just drawing them in so I know roughly where they're going to go. Again, it took a couple of layers of the white paint to show up fully against the background of the black paint, but I quite like how they came out. I think this was the part that took me the longest, because obviously having to get the ribs nice and neat and fairly symmetrical, but like I said, not going for perfection here. Then once I was happy with the rough position of the ribs, then I filled in the middle section to make it look more like a sternum, and then went over the ribs with some more white to make them stand out a bit brighter. Like so. Then I added some rough little vertebra shapes going down the centre of the stomach to make it look like the spine at the back. So they're kind of like little fat T shapes basically. And then I did a rough hip bone shape, like so. And then what I'm probably going to do is put an outfit on for the legs. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to paint the rest of the legs just yet. And now all I've got to do is make her outfit. Let me know what you think I should call her. Hope you enjoyed this little video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.